In this video, I'm going to show you how to make Vase Mode a little bit more functional by creating a snaking path throughout your design to force your slicer to essentially print multiple perimeter shells in Vase Mode where typically you only have one. I've already sketched the outline of the model that I want. Today we're going to be making a camera cover printed 100% in Vase Mode that's going to be functional, prints a lot faster than traditional printing, and yeah, join me for the ride. Again, I've already got our model sketched here, but I'll start the sketch over just so you can see every step and why I've made some design decisions that I have made. So without further ado, let's jump in and start with a new sketch. We're going to want to have this on the same plane as this sketch here. Press P to project in this outline of the sketch because I'm going to be showing you how to make the dimensions for the inside so it'll be printable in Vase Mode. So let's project this and go ahead and get rid of that original sketch. So we just left with this main outline. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the offset tool and we're going to offset this entire body by the line width that we want to make our Vase Mode. So I'm going to be printing at 0.4 millimeter line width. So we'll make this 0.4 millimeters of offset to give us our first line. Looking good so far. Now let's go ahead and jump into the second line. I don't want it to be on top of it because then our slicer won't be able to detect that we have a different line that we're printing. So we're going to make a little bit of a gap here, and through some testing I found that 0.05 of a gap in between the model makes for the best adhesion and actual printability. So we're going to do another offset. This time we're going to be offsetting the same line, but instead of 0.4 we're going to be doing that 0.45, and that'll give us our 0.05 offset between there. Let's go ahead and create the second set of lines here. Very simple. We're going to offset this line again, but instead of 0.45 we're going to go 0.4 bigger than that. So we're going to be at 0.85, and that will give us our second line. So now you can see hopefully where I'm getting at with creating a snaking path that Vase Mode will recognize and be able to print. So you'll see if I hover over this, you can see that that's one complete face, and if I go over slightly, that's another complete face, but we want these to meet up in the middle. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of design work to kind of join these all together and kind of map out the path of where we want to go. So what you're aiming to do at this portion is essentially join this face with this face in a smart way. So your tool head has to be able to follow a path that will essentially go up here, wrap all the way around, come out to the bottom, go over here, go back up, come back around, and then possibly turn here, go up. So the directional path that I've chosen, we'll take a look at my original sketch here. I've made it so that this continues straight down to kind of cut these two off, right? And that'll make more of a straight path here. Let me just kind of show you what was done here. So let's get rid of this one there, and let's press L to add a line, and we're just going to take a line from here and make that parallel to this line there, right? 90 degrees, and we're going to make another line next to it, 90 degrees, and you should see once I make this line, right, that when I hover over this, this is now separated. You see how this is two separate bodies? So imagine if it starts here, and let me put this more in the center. Imagine if it starts here, it can, if your tool starts here, it can go up, around, right? And if you're following this outer path, right, let's follow this. So if I follow this path up and around here and see what it does, it goes loops around, does all this stuff, then it gets down here, then it'll wrap around there, do all that stuff, okay? And then it's gonna come here. So what do I want it to do once it gets to this section, right? I want it to now go up, okay? So what I can do to achieve that is let's just add another line It's 90 degrees parallel to this line as well. Okay, and let's use our cut tool to open up this path, right? So now, if you follow that path, you can see, let me get rid of these dimensions, make it a little bit easier to see. There we go. If you did that same path, oops, there goes my dimensions right back. Let's get rid of them. You can see this path, if I were to follow it, is now gonna go up here. It's gonna loop around, do all that stuff. It's gonna come down to the bottom. It's gonna loop around, do all that stuff. But now, when it gets here, it's gonna curve up, and then it's gonna follow this, and it's gonna loop around, do all that stuff. And we're gonna keep on following that down, and then it'll hit this curve, and then go up, loop around, do all that, and then it'll come back down here, right? And that'll be pretty much the end of our loop. Okay, so once that loop is closed, you'll see that goes up and down. Once it comes back down here, we need a path for it to go to continue on. So remember, this is where we started. So we're gonna start here, we're gonna loop around, that's gonna come up, it's gonna come out here. Then we're gonna loop back around, go back up, and then it's gonna come back down here. And we want this loop to continue. So to continue this loop, we're gonna add another line to there, right? And we're gonna open this up with a cut these out. So now, when I hover over this, you can see this is all one face. This is all one continuous face. So when I finish the sketch and extrude the face and pull this straight up, you can see that you have one body that will now be continuous through. So if you think about how Vase Mode works, right? If this was one solid body, it would just do this outer wall. It wouldn't know what to do. There would be a gap in between. So by creating this path, we've allowed the slicer essentially instructions on where it should go next when it's in Vase Mode. So let's go ahead and jump over to the slicer and see how this slices. Okay, so now we've got the model loaded up in the slicer, and you can see here you've got that cut. And for the slicer, I would recommend using Cura. A lot of other slicers, what happens is it will automatically fix the mesh, and because the gap is so small, it'll meld these together, which kind of defeats the purpose of all the design work we just did. So if we scroll down over to, let's see, we scroll down over to special modes. And you know, before we slice this in Vase Mode, let's see what happens when we just slice it normally, right? So let's go ahead and slice this like you normally would. Let's look at the preview and take a look at what's going on, right? So I can see, let's go down to the very bottom. I can see that we've got a bunch of like random jumps. All these little white spots are starts, and let's actually change this from flow to line type. So you can see all the different start points here. Okay, and you can also see line 1, this kind of got janked up, don't really know what happened there. But remember that we're making this path, and you can kind of see that it's, if I was to slice this and print this, this would jump all over the place, right? So let's go ahead and open this back up, and let's turn on Vase Mode, or spiralize outer contour in Cura. Turn that on, and let's reslice this and see how it handles. So now you can see, where did all the starts go, right? So in Vase Mode, you get your top and bottom shell, right? So there's no way to avoid this, so you have to make some type of base. So you have those starts, but that's just because I have 3 bottom parameters. If I had 1 bottom parameter, you'd only see 1 start. But let's go down to the bottom, and you can see what's happening here, right? So let's go up to once the Vase Mode actually, so these first 3 layers aren't Vase Mode. Let's go to the 3rd layer where the Vase Mode actually starts. And you can see our original start here, and let's play the preview in the slicer and see what's going on. So you can see as the tool head moves around, it's following that path that we made. So it's gonna go around here, it's gonna wrap through, it's gonna go up, continue around, and it's gonna go right back to where it started originally. And it'll continue the 2nd layer. And it goes up, wraps around, goes up, and once it gets back to the front, it'll continue on and so forth, all the way up to the top. So yeah, that is how you print something with multiple lines, multiple parameters in Vase Mode.